Hi there, it's Katrin from 3Ps. This video is a companion to the video I did on what's wrong with the bodybuilder's diet, and it's how you can put the bodybuilder's diet right. So this video is about the tweaks that you can make to your diet if you are building muscle, either because you're a competitive bodybuilder or because you just want to be big and look lean, or you're a woman and want to look fit and super lean. What are the tweaks that you can do to the bodybuilder's diet to actually make it life-sustaining? Because at its core, it's not a great diet, and if you're interested in what's wrong with it, then you need to watch the video that I've done on what's wrong with the bodybuilder's diet. It's on this channel. So I'm now in this video going to talk about what you can do to make it better. So what I've got my notes here. I'm just going to look at my notes in terms of what I want to cover on this video. So I'm going to talk about what are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things you can do in terms of the bodybuilder's diet to make it better, and then I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 again 5 things that you can change, that you need to take out of the diet to stop the damage, to stop the compromise in your health that you go through if you're a bodybuilder. So the first thing I want to talk about was forget what you're actually eating. Make sure the actual constituents you start with are right, and what I mean by that is constituents which are not processed crap. One of my great friends I've mentioned before, he's a physique model. He starts his day with this thing called a malted loaf, and it's a thing you get in a packet, and it's sort of soft and spongy and springy. It doesn't even feel like real bread, and it's obviously made with a very refined type of flour and trans fat, and it's got dried fruit in. So it's basically a combination of fat and refined carbohydrates. So basically, I always say to him, it's like reverse liposuction. You might as well just take a syringe full of fat and just inject it straight into your fat cells, because when you eat something like that, what they're doing is the carbohydrate opens the cells up, then the fat just goes straight in. So it's about the worst thing you can start your day with. And so what I would say is with a bodybuilding diet is, do some swap out. So that malt loaf probably could come out, and instead maybe put in something that's a bit more healthy, like some pumpernickel bread. If you want to have a bread in the morning, have something like pumpernickel or a really heavy wholemeal bread with like a nut butter on it or some eggs on it. That's a much better way to start your day. So look at your diet and just work out where you can swap out things that are very heavily processed for things that are slightly more natural. Now this is an 80-20, so if there are things you really love, like my friend loves his malt loaf, that's his treat, fine, but he needs to maybe look at his diet later in the day and try and compensate for the damage he's doing first thing. Now you may be in that situation, or you may be someone who, you need, there are certain things that you absolutely love that you don't want to take out of your diet. Well, that's where the concept of the cheat meal comes in. So maybe you keep your good diet for 2 weeks, and then every 2 weeks you have one meal where you have the thing that you crave. Okay, that works for a lot of people. I don't do that because I find that if I have it then once, then I will keep craving it, and I'd rather just switch the craving off completely by not having it and substituting other things. But that's just my way of doing things. But you can, if you want, work in the food you love, but just don't have it all the time. Let's try and substitute in some better foods. So the first thing I said is substitute in some better alternatives to some of the worst things that you're eating as part of your diet. Okay. The second point, is definitely, if you are looking to build muscle, is to try and go alcohol free. Alcohol has such catastrophic effects to your health, both in major quantities and in minor quantities. It compromises your training because it dehydrates you. Trying to train hungover is a challenge. Interestingly, a lot of bodybuilders, when they're actually at competition, the last thing they do before they go on stage is take a slug of brandy. Now, the reason they do that is number one, to give themselves a bit of, a sort of beer blanket confidence, so alcohol confidence, but also alcohol it dehydrates, so it will do the last stripping out of the water in your body. It's the last cycling of the water in your body to make you look as vascular as you can. But I thought it was really interesting that they go on half cut, but they do. I suppose if you're going to go onto a stage in those small trunks, you need to have a bit of something to help you along. So, but if you are training and you're serious about bodybuilding, then I think that certainly alcohol every day, or as a major part of your weekend, needs to go, and instead you need to adopt alcohol sometimes, but not all the time, and certainly not too often attitude. Okay, so that's my second point. My third point, is to get your meal spacing right. So you need to make sure that you are eating you know, at least 3 times a day, preferably 5 times a day, and that your meals aren't too large, because number one, because if you take too heavy a meal, you're going to find it difficult to train. But number two is you're looking to keep the engine stoked, but you're not looking to over consume so that anything is stored as fat. And so the way you do that is to make sure that you're eating small and often. A lot of people think, well, if they skip a meal, that will make them lean. But of course, all that does is create a famine response in your body, so it then sucks calories when you do eat, but also you're so hungry that when you do eat, you overeat. On this channel, we have a nutritionist called Maia Lloyd, and she's written a series of weight loss books for us. And because she's a weight loss nutritionist, she has 6 clinics in London, very successful. I'll put the link up to the books here, but the point I wanted to make here was we were talking about this whole idea of missing meals, and she said the first thing she does with clients who are looking to lose weight is to make sure they're eating breakfast, and she just says that is the most important thing, the first important change they can make if they don't eat breakfast is to eat breakfast, and they will start to lose weight. Okay, so you know, take it from her if you don't take it from me. The next point is, all your meals must be centered around protein. Now, if you are on a bodybuilder diet, certainly your lunch and your dinner will be around protein. Probably chicken, maybe fish, maybe steak occasionally, but it's going to be around protein. With weight loss, the point is to stabilize your blood sugar, because if you have your blood sugar stable, you're not pushing the insulin button constantly. It's the insulin button that creates layers of fat, because it's insulin into the blood that pulls the sugar out and then lays any excess as fat. So what you want to do is keep your blood sugar nice and steady, so at no point is there an extreme insulin response. Now, the way you do that is to put protein at the center of all of your meals, because protein is a low glycemic, it doesn't stimulate the production of insulin in the way that carbohydrate does. So even with your breakfast, you need to make sure that it is around protein. So some people think they're being really healthy if they have cereal for breakfast, or they have, you know, a dainty croissant, or they have porridge with a fruit compote. None of that would pass muster in terms of trying to lose weight and having a protein-centered breakfast. Having eggs is a classic for bodybuilders. It's a great way to start the day. It applies to all of us, particularly bodybuilders. If you like eggs, have them for breakfast. If eggs aren't your thing, and you know, you can obviously have meat for breakfast if you want. You could have chicken, yet more chicken. You could have something like a smoked mackerel would be a great start to the day. Any fish would be a great start to the day. But make sure that all of your meals are centered around protein. So that's my next recommendation. And finally, it's about, so I'm going to move because I can feel my legs going to sleep, is to say it's about timing. So what I mean by that is that when you're setting up your eating pattern, particularly if you're a bodybuilder and you're following the folklore about, you know, what is the bodybuilding, the bodybuilding diet, you're probably saying, well, you're going to have breakfast, lunch and dinner, and lunch and dinner is going to be a piece of protein and a baked potato, or a piece of protein and rice, okay? Now, apart from the fact that that doesn't necessarily give you a huge amount of fibre or vitamins or minerals, because there's no salad or vegetables going on, and probably the carbohydrate is simple, like a baked potato or white rice. The other thing about that is that doesn't necessarily give you enough sustainability between meals. So you need to time your meals so that you're not letting yourself get hungry, because if you get hungry, your body starts to eat its own muscle, and you obviously want to avoid that. So what you want to do is make sure that you space your meals evenly, and you include snacks, so preferably a morning snack and an afternoon snack, and even maybe a snack at night. And this is all about trying to make sure that your body has enough energy to get through the day. It doesn't have excess energy, which is going to store as fat, but if it's in an energy deficit, it will start to eat the muscle gains you're trying to make, which obviously, if you're looking to compete, is really what you don't want to happen. So the first thing on timing is to make sure that you've spaced your meals. The second thing on timing is to make sure that you are conscious about when you're eating fast carbohydrate and when you're eating slow carbohydrate, because fast carbohydrate gives you an immediate spike of energy, and slow carbohydrate gives you more sustained energy and less insulin response. So from a weight gain perspective, you really want to be going with slow carbohydrate. However, when you are in the gym lifting weights, the energy system that you use to lift weights needs fast carbohydrate. So you actually need to eat some fast carbohydrate before you lift. If you just either take your carbohydrate very, very low or only eat slow release carbohydrate, you're not going to have that rush that you need to get into the gym. Now, the way that a lot of bodybuilders overcome that is that if they're on a very low carbohydrate diet, is they will take a stimulant before they lift, and that often is caffeine or is any of the sort of stacks that you find. So there's what's called an ECA stack, which is an ephedrine, caffeine and aspirin stack that a lot of bodybuilders take. Now, I've done a separate video about ephedrine and my views on ephedrine, but just for the sake of just explaining in this video, those sorts of ephedrine and combination ephedrine products, they're all about compensating for the fact that you have such a low carbohydrate element to your diet that you're actually lacking in energy. Now, they obviously work short term, but they really tax your system, particularly your adrenals. So long term, they're not a sustainable way to gain energy. You must gain energy through your diet, through your nutrition. And so my recommendation to you would be that you make sure that you have some fast carbohydrate before you train. That's not just my view, that's also the view of many bodybuilding nutritionists. And one of the ones that I really trust is Franco Columbu. Franco Columbu was Arnold Schwarzenegger's training partner. He became Mr. Universe himself, and I think actually arguably he was probably more beautiful than Arnold Schwarzenegger. But Franco Columbu became a nutritionist. He was obviously interested in that side of things, and after he had finished his high-level competitive career, he requalified and then basically had clients and taught on nutrition. He's written a very good book on nutrition, which I'll put the link in the notes to this. But he believed this idea of fast and slow carbohydrate, and he used to recommend that on the walk to the gym, because he always walked to the gym, that you have some fruit. So I think that's a great idea. So if you've got a short travel to the gym, have some fruit on the way, have some grapes, have an apple, something with a bit of sugar, just so that when you get there you can lift. Okay, I know obviously that at the point at which you are looking to really lean up or rip up for your competition, you're going to take your carbohydrate really, really low, and I appreciate that. But what I'm saying is that that can't be the cure-all whenever you want to lean up. It may be the tactic you use when you're competing, but when you're not competing and you're just looking to lean up, it's much better to control your blood sugar and get your body fat under control that way. Okay, so that's the next point I wanted to make. Okay, so those are the things that you can do to a bodybuilder's diet to actually make it slightly less toxic for you health-wise. Now I'm going to talk about the things that you need to actually change, that you really need to change long-term, or that you need to make sure that you don't adopt long-term, because they will just, the fallout in terms of your health as a bodybuilder is just not worth it. And the first one I wanted to mention was the way that as a bodybuilder, you will most usually cycle your weight. So you will go from maybe normal weight through to very, very lean for competition, and you will do this over and over again. And what you're doing obviously is you're stripping fat off your body for competition, and then afterwards you're rebound eating and you gain that fat, and you may actually gain more fat. Now that puts a lot of stress on your body and isn't something which really you could do without having some effect on your body long term. Now, I'm not saying that all bodybuilders do that, because some bodybuilders manage to keep their weight pretty much in a range when they're in their off season as well as their on season. But there is a joke that the champions that you see in competition, you are unrecognisable in the gym in off season because they look completely different. And I also think that because of obviously the focus on the body fat, it's almost inevitable that if you go with a very, very restricted diet, when it comes to off season, you will rebound eat. So just what I would say on that is you need to really watch that doesn't become an eating disorder, and you need to maybe not see that as the cure-all whenever you want to drop weight. Well, I'll just adopt a bodybuilding way of doing things and just cut my carbohydrate really, really low and really restrict my eating, because it's just not good for the body. And what's much better obviously is to eat a more balanced diet to manage your blood sugar, and cut out, for example, refined carbohydrates, because it's refined carbohydrates that lead you to weight gain. It's not, the calories are not really the issue, and fat certainly isn't the issue. It's refined carbohydrates that is the issue. So, when people talk about things like muffin top, we're being literal there. It's not a figure of speech. Muffin top is caused by refined carbohydrates such as muffins. That type of sugar sits on your waist, sits in your central trunk of your body, just because that is the body's reaction to that type of almost toxic carbohydrate. Okay, so the first point I'm saying in terms of what you take out of your diet, if you can try to avoid the rebound eating that comes with being on and off season, that will be and that's going to help a lot in terms of the health, long-term health effects of competing. The second point, is to talk about the one thing, or balance. I call it the one thing because there's a really famous book called The One Thing, which is actually a business book, but I think it applies to most parts of life. And in fact, it's a really interesting book. Again, I'll put the link up on the video because it's a really good book to read. But the essence of the book is, in any part of your life, you should ask yourself the question, what is the one thing that I could do that by doing it would make everything else easier or unnecessary? So what is the one thing that I could do in this area of my life that by doing it would cause that everything else was either easier or unnecessary? It's a really, really brilliant question. Now, in a bodybuilding context, you need to think about what that one thing is, and that one thing is probably going to be balance. It's balance between exercise, nutrition, and rest. It's that balance. And when it comes to nutrition, that means getting your nutrition right, but not allowing extreme eating patterns to dominate, because they cause binging. So there are lots of bodybuilders who they're trying to peak for competition, but they're so restricted in their diet, and they've had they've not had any sort of exposure to more sophisticated ways of getting to competition fitness, and then they binge and ruin it all and not able to compete or not at their peak. So what is the one thing in terms of your diet, your bodybuilder diet, your diet, that if you did it would make everything else either easier or unnecessary? And that look at your diet and look at what that might be. And that might be, for example, to eat breakfast. That might be to have a little bit of fast carbohydrate before you go to the gym. That might be to allow yourself a cheat meal every 2 weeks. That might be to add some vegetables in because you've got no vegetables. That might be to avoid too much carbohydrate in the afternoon, or because it makes you fall asleep, or to make sure that you are having some carbohydrate in the morning to get you through the day. Just think about what that one thing is for you, because that's what's going to make the biggest difference. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the concept of cheat meals. There are cheat meals in bodybuilding, but they tend to be unplanned. What I'm suggesting to you is that you can have cheat meals that are planned. When you're looking at your diet, we're all human beings. We have the need to socialize. We have the need to enjoy food. We have the need to sometimes have food that we enjoy that maybe isn't the best for us, and it's about working that into your routine so you don't feel guilty about it, and it doesn't trigger a greater fall off the wagon, which would amount to a binge. So allowing yourself, maybe having 80 or 90% compliance with your diet, but allowing yourself some fall-offs is human. And so it's really important that you allow that, and that you change that way of that mindset. Perfectionism is a really difficult and sad way of operating, because it takes so much pleasure out of life. Perfectionism is not allowing you to deviate from your own set of rules, which may be completely unrealistic. Perfectionism is an isolationist way of being, because it actually says, I can't do this and I won't interact with those people because I've got this to do, or it's turning up at gathering after gathering with your Tupperware with your chicken in. Now sometimes maybe you need to take part, because there's only one life. I'm not suggesting that you abandon your diet, but I'm suggesting that you look more broadly at your diet and give yourself the permission, or work your diet around other priorities like your family or socializing, so that it doesn't dominate. There's a great quote from a bodybuilder called Bill Pearl. He was talking about when he was a champion, talking about when his attitude to bodybuilding. He would say, in the morning I get up and train, and then I get on with the rest of my day. So he didn't allow bodybuilding to dominate. He was part of what he did, but he had a broader set of priorities, and that's what I'm saying to you, I suppose. Okay, the next point, is something which I want to talk to you about, what you take out of your diet, and that's stimulants. So, so many of the pre-contest drinks are, if you look at the back, you look at the label, are full of caffeine, and you may also be taking stimulants like ephedrine. With all of these stimulants, it's like revving the car engine. You are overtaxing your system if you're stimulating your system in that way, and that is not without health repercussions, particularly things like adrenal fatigue. If you are feeling that you have to keep revving the engine because you're not eating enough, that's long term. You risk things like adrenal fatigue, and adrenal fatigue is really serious, and you get it because you simply can't function. You can't get out of bed, you can't go to work, and it can take a long time to rebuild. As I said, I think in another video, when it comes to adrenal fatigue, what is the symptom? The symptom is things like memory loss is a classic, but also if you sit down and find that you fall asleep, that's a good symptom of adrenal fatigue. If you find that you need caffeine to power yourself all day, again, that would suggest adrenal fatigue. All of these stimulants have a price, and my suggestion to you is that you try and dial back those stimulants and eradicate them if you can. One natural stimulant, which I think you can replace it with, is green tea. Now, green tea, you get it in tablet form, but I just think it's much better to have it in its most natural form. So I would suggest that you have organic matcha, and that's M-A-T-C-H-A, matcha green tea. Now, matcha is a form of green tea, but it's got a more intense hit of micronutrients, so the antioxidants, than green tea. But green tea is has amazing health benefits for you. It's great for leaning up. It's great for energy and focus, but it's natural. So take things like ephedrine and caffeine out and put green tea in this instead. I promise you, you'll feel really great on it, and it will help you get very lean. Okay. So the last point, yes, is that when it comes to your goals or your aims in fitness, think about some sort of support. There is a tendency for people to train alone, particularly when you're doing weights, because it lends itself to loners. I remember my brother saying to me that he'd gone to a gym in London, and in the change room a guy had managed to leave his training notebook out, and my brother, being the nosy punk that he was, opened it, and he said that apart from the training record, there were pages and pages of the same sort of mantra or affirmation said over and over again. So it was like, I am strong, I am strong. But it was really quite freaky, because it was like the scene from The Shining, where the Jack Nicholson character just writes the same line over and over and over again. So it was slightly unhinged, but it was the world had turned in on this guy. He was so into his bodybuilding, nothing else mattered. Well, you need to have balance, and you need to turn outwards, and you need to have a support network, and you need to not do things alone. So my encouragement to you in relation to what you change is to try and turn outward again. Don't make bodybuilding the only thing you do. Make it part of your day, as Bill Pearl would say, but don't let it dominate. So those are my 5 things that you can add to your bodybuilding, particularly your nutrition, but your lifestyle, to make things better. And then 5 things which I think you should change to make that lifestyle a more sustainable lifestyle. I hope that's been helpful. I am a personal trainer, specialist in weights, a coach, and a neuro-linguistic programming master practitioner. So I know about mind-body connections. I'm all about helping you be yourself, but even better, but doing it in a sustainable way. I'm happy to share my skills. If you have any questions, then just drop me a line. Either put a comment below this video, or you can post me a comment on Facebook. Our Facebook page is at facebook.com/3psmedia. I'll put some notes in here about some of the books I've talked about and other things, so you can have a look at those. Please do join us. Please subscribe. It'd be great to have you. This channel is all about fitness, technical videos on lifting weights, nutrition, mindfulness, positive attitude, and change. It's been a pleasure. I know you're busy, so it's always an honour to have your time. This is Catherine Turner saying bye-bye from 3Ps. Bye.